To kill time on the drive back to hometown for Christmas, I found a college student heading the same way for a rideshare. He eagerly started showing off his girlfriend, pulling out a photo tucked into his phone case, and said with a smile, "Look, this is my girlfriend. She's beautiful and amazing, a senior partner at a legal firm in New York City, making millions a year. Most importantly, she loves me so much, she wants to be with me every second. That's why she's coming home with me to meet my family." I stared at the photo in disbelief. How could it be identical to my wife? Just then, the college student's phone rang. "Hey, honey, I'm here. I'll come pick you up when you arrive." It was my wife's voice. Sarah Wilson's voice was as sweet as ever, but with a touch of seduction. "What time will you get here?" I miss you a little." The boy was a boy. He blushed as soon as he said it. Something seemed to stir within him, and even his voice became rougher. "Honey, just wait for me, okay? I can't talk right now because there's someone else in the car, but I'll see you when I get back. My parents are looking forward to meeting you. You don't need to buy anything, but you should probably get that thing." As he spoke, the boy's tone became more excited. As a man, I knew what they were talking about, and I knew what he was buying. It was nothing more than the private things between a man and a woman. Normally, I wouldn't say anything, maybe just tease him with a knowing smile after he hung up, a men know what's up kind of thing. But I heard the woman's voice. It was my wife, Sarah Wilson. I just kept driving with a straight face, thinking about everything. So, her urgent business trip for Christmas was just to see this younger boyfriend. Even then, I still couldn't quite believe it. Everyone who mentioned Sarah Wilson always had nothing but praise. We always had a great relationship, a model couple in everyone's eyes, and I had never doubted her. When he was with me, she wouldn't even look at her phone, giving me her undivided attention. And when she went to work, she always checked in with video calls, never hiding anything. She left her phone on the table for me to check, and I never found anything suspicious. Whenever I saw video clips of cheating wives, I would just laugh it off, thinking it would never happen to me. After all, I had such a perfect wife. I wanted to tell myself that this was impossible, that it was just a coincidence that she looked like my wife. Suppressing my urge to scream, I asked as calmly as I could, "What's your girlfriend's name? Where does she work?" The boy's face lit up as soon as he heard about his girlfriend. "Her name is Sarah Wilson, and she works at Manhattan legal firm in New York City." Hearing this, the last of my doubts vanished. There was only one Manhattan legal firm in New York City, and only one person named Sarah Wilson worked there. It was my wife. My voice trembled involuntarily. "How did you two meet?" The boy didn't seem to notice my sadness and continued to speak with a smile, even happier than before. "I went to apply for legal aid once, and Honey happened to be the one who helped me. I didn't think someone as amazing as her would ever be interested in me, but she took the initiative to ask for my contact information and asked me out. That's how we slowly got together." Legal aid? I remembered that 3 years ago, Sarah Wilson had volunteered to provide free legal aid at a university to improve her social standing. I never imagined that was when they started. My hands on the wheel became increasingly unsteady as memories flooded my mind. All those years, the age she mentioned was dates with this young boy. I don't know how I arrived. I didn't drop him off at the agreed-upon location and got out of the car somewhere along the way. I added him on social media and found out his name was Leo Carter. I looked through his feed, filled with intimate photos of my wife and this boy. So, every time she worked late or went on a sudden business trip, it was to meet up with Leo Carter. I sat in the car, my heart pierced by 1,000 swords, the pain spreading throughout my body. I looked at my phone, my fingers trembling as I lit up the screen and stared at my chat with Sarah Wilson. Suddenly, Sarah Wilson sent me a message. "I've arrived at my destination for the business trip. What are you up to?" Immediately after, Sarah Wilson sent me a photo of herself making a peace sign with a drink in her hand, an ordinary snapshot yet still stunningly beautiful. Sarah Wilson had always been like this. I never had to ask, she would always proactively tell me what she was doing, down to the smallest detail. I never worried that she would do anything behind my back. Every time she sent a photo, I only saw her beauty. But in the background of the photo, the familiar high-rise buildings and mountains, if I looked closely, I would immediately recognize them as my hometown where I grew up. And the drink in her hand was peach iced tea. I was allergic to peaches, and she had promised me never to drink anything peach-flavored again because even a little bit would cause me to break out in hives and end up in the hospital. Sarah Wilson, who claimed to be on a business trip in Miami, was actually in Pittsburgh. If I hadn't happened to give Leo Carter a ride, I would never have discovered Sarah Wilson's affair in my life. I didn't reply to her and instead looked at Leo Carter's social media. He and Sarah Wilson, each with a drink in hand, stood sweetly in front of that high-rise, their cheeks pressed together. The love in their eyes seemed to overflow through the screen, and the wedding ring she always wore on her finger was gone, leaving only a deep ring mark. My eyes were fixed on everything in the photo, desperately hoping to find some possibility that she hadn't betrayed me. But the truth had already happened, and searching for it was just humiliating myself. Seeing that I didn't reply to her message, she said, "You're probably still driving. Let's chat when you get out of the car." I just sat in the car smoking until night fell. Sarah Wilson sent me another photo, a somewhat seductive one, from a hotel room. "Babe, I miss you. I'll wear this for you when I get back." I found a new outfit. Normally, seeing this would have set my mind racing with wild fantasies, but today, I almost threw up. In the photo, there was a backpack next to the TV, which I immediately recognized as Leo Carter's backpack from earlier that day. The condom vending machine in the hotel room was also open. Without even thinking, I knew what those two were about to do. I don't know why, but I called Sarah Wilson. After hesitating for a few seconds, Sarah Wilson answered the phone. Her voice was seductive as she asked, "Honey, what's up? Have you arrived in hometown?" I hummed softly in agreement and asked, "Sarah Wilson, what are you doing?" Sarah Wilson didn't pick up on my change in mood as quickly as she usually did and continued to play along. "Nothing, babe, nothing." As she spoke, her voice suddenly became higher pitched and even more moist. I didn't dare to imagine what my wife was doing at that moment, and quietly turned on the phone recording. "What's wrong, Sarah Wilson? What happened?" Sarah Wilson seemed to be gritting her teeth, trying to suppress something. "Nothing, honey. A room service person just came in suddenly and scared me. I'll go talk to the staff. I'll hang up now." She didn't even wait for my reply and hung up impatiently. In the instant before the call ended, I heard her unrestrained moans and Leo Carter's low chuckles. When I knew for sure what was happening, I wasn't as angry as I thought I would be, but strangely calm. I locked the car and walked towards the house. Since that was the case, there was no need to say anything more. I was an orphan, and going home meant going back to the orphanage where I grew up. After I married Sarah Wilson, the Wilsons took pity on me and bought a house in my hometown, saying that since Sarah Wilson and I were married, I was now their child, and when I came back here, this would be my home. To be honest, I had never experienced fatherly or motherly love, and the Wilsons gave that to me. I didn't tell the Wilsons about Sarah Wilson's affair. I only told them that Sarah Wilson had an urgent business trip. It was Christmas, and the Wilsons were already old, so it was best not to let them know about something like this. After Christmas dinner, I went out for a smoke. In the hazy smoke, it felt like I was back in the old days. The year I graduated from college, I couldn't find a job. No company was willing to hire me, and I had spent the last of my money. Having grown up in an orphanage, I had been fighting the world alone since I was a child. Until that day, I couldn't fight anymore. I stood alone on the overpass, watching the traffic, contemplating ending my life. The world was so big, with so many people who had a haven and a support system, but I had none. I stood there until midnight, quietly standing on the city bridge. No one knew, gazing at a star like the moon for a long time. The surging traffic under the overpass had stopped, leaving only the dark, hard asphalt road. I didn't want my death to land on someone's car, ruining their mood. I was about to take one last look at the world when I saw the most beautiful sight in the world. Sarah Wilson was holding a bottle of wine, smiling charmingly. "Don't think about it, have a drink." I will never forget the taste of that wine, bitter and stimulating with a hint of sweetness. It was as if a Sarah Wilson existed in this world. That day, we talked about everything under the sun. When she left, she gave me $2,000. She told me, "Keep going, don't give up." $2,000 wasn't much, but it was enough to keep me alive. And I did have hope. For life. Soon, I found a company to work for and gained a lot of experience. Just when I was about to get a promotion, Emily Carter sent me a message, saying she wanted to develop her career in New York City and asked if I was willing to go with her. I quit my job without hesitation and took out all the money I had saved to rent an apartment for us to live in the vast city of New York City. She told me at the time that she didn't want to drag me down, but without me, she didn't know how she could continue living. She saved me, and I saved her at that time. We made it official that day, and we agreed that we would get married when we made a name for ourselves. Marriage. For those 2 words, I worked day and night. Finally, I caught the wave of the internet, the company went public, and I became the CEO, a relatively successful person. And Sarah Wilson, with my help, gradually became a senior partner at a top law firm. We finally made a name for ourselves. We got married so naturally. I was incredibly happy at that time, with a thriving career, a devoted wife, a harmonious family, and a healthy body. I became the envy of everyone, and I myself felt that my life was enviable. But today, I realized that my so-called happy marriage had been tainted by another person 3 years ago. The seductive voice of Sarah Wilson, the low growls of Leo Carter, and the ring mark on her finger flashed in my mind. I lowered my head, took off the wedding ring I had worn for 3 years, and threw it towards the moon. In an instant, fireworks burst into bloom. The ring disappeared under the cover of the fireworks, and my marriage completely vanished at that moment. The next day, I told the Wilsons and drove back to the orphanage to see Sister Mary and the caregivers who had raised me. I forced a smile and wished everyone a happy Christmas, and Sister Mary, with her gray hair, seemed to see something and pulled me into her arms. "David, it's okay. Tell Sister Mary if anything is wrong. As long as Sister Mary is here, you'll always be a child." Hearing Sister Mary's words, I couldn't hold back my sadness any longer and cried in her arms. Sister Mary patted my back like she used to when I was a child, gently comforting me. When I left, Sister Mary didn't say anything to me, and I didn't say anything to Sister Mary, but I made up my mind. Orphans always crave love, and when they have stable love, they try to maintain it by any means, even if they encounter something like this. I had considered turning a blind eye, but Sister Mary's words made me realize that I always had a support system. There was nothing more for me to hesitate about. Just then, Leo Carter posted something on social media, a photo of him, Sarah Wilson, and his parents. The 4 of them were having dinner at a restaurant, looking happy and harmonious. I recognized the restaurant. It was one of Sarah Wilson's and my favorite restaurants in Pittsburgh. I never thought she would take Leo Carter there, too. Today, I was going to make everything clear. I drove to the restaurant and saw everything through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The 2 elderly people were looking at Leo Carter and Sarah Wilson with smiles on their faces. Sarah Wilson was doing her best to make them happy, resting her hands on the table and looking at everything. What a happy and kind family. If the woman weren't my wife, I would probably have wished them well. I picked up my phone and made a video call to Sarah Wilson. She looked at her ringing phone, picked up her bag, said something to the 3 of them, and quickly ran out. She ran outside the restaurant to answer the phone, putting on her wedding ring. She turned on the video, but I didn't turn on my camera. "Hey, babe, what's up?" I was just discussing something with a client at the restaurant. "Babe, are you having a good Christmas?" I didn't reply and just chuckled coldly, quietly turning on the video. The video didn't show my face, but a woman in a black suit, busily tidying herself up in front of the restaurant. It was Sarah Wilson. Sarah Wilson looked at everything in the video and panicked. She looked up, ran towards me in her high heels, shouting, "David, David, let me explain." I stood there without saying a word, pointing towards the glass. The noise attracted Leo Carter, who also saw everything. Soon, the 3 of us were standing in front of the restaurant window. Sarah Wilson looked at me with a panicked expression, blurting out, "David Miller, let me explain. Let me tell you, it's not what it looks like. Wait until I get home, and I'll explain everything to you, okay? Leo Carter pulled Sarah Wilson into his arms, with a smug and contemptuous look in his eyes. David Miller, honey loves me, not you. You saw it all today. Honey chose to have Christmas dinner with me and my family instead of going home with you. Isn't that clear enough? Besides, you're getting old. I'm stronger, younger, and more handsome. I'm much better than you. I ignored Leo Carter's barking and just quietly looked at Sarah Wilson. Sarah Wilson, I'll give you one more chance. Come home with me now and explain everything to me, and I might forgive you. Her usual aloofness had been completely replaced by panic. She wanted to grab my hand, but Leo Carter stopped her. Leo Carter looked at Sarah Wilson with tears in his eyes. Honey, you know my family situation. If you leave, my dad will have a heart attack. Please stay. Sarah Wilson was standing between Leo Carter and me, her eyes dazed, but when she heard those words, she said to me with tears in her eyes, David, a life is at stake. Wait for me to go over there first, and when everything is over, I'll come find you and explain everything to you. It seemed that she had made her choice. After she finished speaking, she turned around and went to the bathroom with Leo Carter to touch up her makeup, and I turned around and left without hesitation. I took out my phone and sent Ra Wilson the electronic divorce agreement, saying one sentence, Sarah Wilson, let's get a divorce. After saying that, I immediately blocked all of Sarah Wilson's contact information. I didn't want to say another word to her. But even though she had chosen Leo Carter, she harassed me every day, calling me in every way possible, changing phone numbers, and asking friends to pass on messages. My only answer to her was, since you've already chosen him, don't bother me anymore. She even wanted to contact me through her parents, but I had a friend tell her that if she did, there would be no room for negotiation. Only then did Sarah Wilson stop. Soon after, I said goodbye to the Wilsons and drove back to New York City. As soon as my car was parked in the garage, Sarah Wilson ran down in tears. Her clothes were deliberately disheveled, her hair was messy, and she had put on light makeup, which was smeared by her tears, making her look even more pitiful. I didn't know if she was really crying or if she was just putting on a pitiful act to gain my sympathy. I had once trusted her completely, but she had utterly failed me. Sarah Wilson wanted to throw herself into my arms, but I didn't catch her and stopped her with my hand. Sarah Wilson, stop doing these useless things. I made it clear to you that day, you chose Leo Carter, so don't come looking for me anymore. Did you think you could have everything? Let me tell you, if you want one person, you have to give up the other. Sarah Wilson collapsed weakly on the ground, grabbing my pant leg and crying. No, I didn't want everything. I didn't choose him. I just didn't want anything to happen, I just didn't want us to be responsible for someone's death. Her explanation didn't calm me down, but made me even angrier. Didn't want anyone to die? How old are your parents? Aren't you afraid they'll have a heart attack if they hear this news? You're so concerned about Leo Carter's parents. What about your pa? Rents? His father has a heart condition. You're afraid something will happen to his father. You didn't choose him? I don't believe it. If you had left with me, and you gave him some money to call an ambulance, would anything have happened to his father? Stop making these pathetic excuses for your actions. You're an adult. You have to take responsibility for your choices. Sarah Wilson shook her head desperately and said, No, it's not like that. I was too panicked. I didn't know anything. I love you, David, I love you. She cried and desperately craved my embrace, but I only felt disgusted by her. Love me? How dare you say those words? Did you think I didn't know what you've been doing these past few days? How many times have you been to a hotel with Leo Carter? How many times have you two done it? I know more than you do. As I spoke, I took out the messages Leo Carter had sent me and showed them to her. Take a good look at what you've been doing these past few days. How dare you say you love me? They were all photos Leo Carter had sent me over the past few days. Some of them were videos, but without exception, they were all intimate photos of him and Sarah Wilson, some of them even nude. The two of them were doing outrageous things in every way, and Sarah Wilson had told Leo Carter I love you countless times. Just after finishing, with the afterglow still lingering, Sarah Wilson leaned against Leo Carter's chest, her voice clear. "Honey, he's already sent you the divorce papers. Why don't you just get a divorce? Wouldn't it be better for us to be together openly?" Sarah Wilson smoothed her hair and reached out to touch Leo Carter's face. "Silly boy, our financial situation is complicated, and we have to plan our divorce carefully. I have to find a way to make him leave with nothing, so I can support you in the future, right?" Leo Carter chuckled after hearing this, and another round of lovemaking began. After seeing all this, Sarah Wilson's face turned pale, and she opened her mouth to say something to explain, but couldn't say anything. I ignored her and just left a paper divorce agreement and left. Either sign the agreement honestly, or wait for me to sue for divorce. I returned to the office and started my work, and applied to the company to leave New York City. The money I had earned was enough for me to live a wealthy life for the rest of my life, and I didn't have to continue working hard in New York City. Besides, the girl who had said she would work hard with me had completely disappeared from my heart. The white moonlight of the past had completely rotted. Now that everything was settled, I went home to pack all my things. I had already made plans to start my trip, to relax and go to the places I had always wanted to go, but never had the chance to. I had once entrusted everything to love, now I was going to entrust everything to myself. Early the next morning, I packed my things and was about to leave. As soon as I opened the door, Sarah Wilson was standing in front of me, her face covered in tears, blocking my way. The makeup on her face looked like it was from yesterday, but it was a mess from the tears. Sarah Wilson lowered her head, not daring to look at me, just crying and apologizing. She said with a sob, "David, please, don't go, okay? I need you. I need you. Please don't leave here, okay? I'm begging you." I didn't reply, just looked at the Empire State Building in the distance. In this forest of steel and concrete, we had once been each other's support, but now I didn't need her anymore, and she seemed to need me. I looked at her with a playful expression and said, "Didn't I tell you not to show up in front of me again?" Sarah Wilson shook her head desperately again, and tears flooded her face again. "No, no, I really can't live without you." I said with a smile, "I don't think so. Isn't Leo Carter doing very well by your side?" She cried and shouted, "No, it's not like that, it's not." While she was crying, a male voice suddenly shouted from behind her, "So what? I'm better than you, you ugly and disgusting old man." Leo Carter walked over, wanting to hug Sarah Wilson, but Sarah Wilson dodged him, frowning and saying, "Did you tell him? Didn't I tell you that as long as you don't let him know about us, I'll agree to all your requests? What do you want?" Leo Carter pursed his lips, his throat choked. "I just want you to make a choice. Between me and David Miller, you can only choose one." "Sarah Wilson, didn't you say you love me the most? Choose me, divorce this old man." Sarah Wilson's beautiful eyes were full of anger. She quickly stepped forward, raised her hand, and slapped Leo Carter straight in the face. "You believe a word I say, why do you think I would divorce my honey for you?" After hitting him, Sarah Wilson slowly turned her head, with a hint of pleading in her eyes as she looked at me. "Honey, this man took advantage of me while I was drunk and we had a relationship. I'll break up with him completely. Please forgive me just this once, okay?" The only response she got was my cold gaze. Leo Carter covered his face in anger. "Sarah Wilson, it's useless. I've already shown him everything. The photos of us dating, our experiences together, he knows everything. You also said that you have no feelings for your honey, and that you only feel happy when you're with me. I just gave you a push to completely break up with him. What did I do wrong?" Leo Carter cried and grabbed her hand. "You said you loved me, and you were willing to come and see my parents. Sarah Wilson, dare to admit that you have no feelings for me?" Sarah Wilson turned her head, her voice still cold. "I only love David Miller." But her hand, hanging by her side, was trembling. Her eyes were also full of reluctance. Leo Carter suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to his knees. Sarah Wilson quickly ran over and helped Leo Carter up, saying, "Leo Carter. Leo Carter, what's wrong? Are you okay?" After she said that, Leo Carter looked up at me. This time, his eyes were full of triumphant smugness. He silently mouthed the words to me. I won. After Leo Carter finished speaking, he seemed to faint, and Sarah Wilson begged as she took my hand. Honey, Leo Carter is like this. I can't just let him die like this. I promise, I'll just take him to the hospital, and I'll come back as soon as I get him to the hospital, okay? After that, I won't have any contact with Leo Carter. Sarah Wilson knew me very well. She knew that I wasn't someone who didn't care about human life. Without waiting for my reply, she hurriedly took Leo Carter to the hospital. Before entering, she softly said to me, asking me to wait for her. I didn't say a word, just turned around and left. Back in the car, I took out a wet wipe from my bag and carefully wiped the hand that Sarah Wilson had held. Then, I picked up my phone and calmly sent her a message. If you don't sign the agreement today, you'll receive my lawsuit tomorrow. You, take care. In that period, my life seemed to be tightly entangled in a mess. The entanglement between Sarah Wilson and Leo Carter was like a storm, and even though I tried my best to stay out of it, I couldn't escape being affected. After disappearing for a while, Sarah Wilson seemed determined to make a clean break with Leo Carter. But Leo Carter wasn't one to give up easily, was he? Sarah Wilson might have initially been looking for a fleeting thrill, just wanting to play around, but Leo Carter wasn't someone she could just shake off. Their relationship was like a tug of war, tearing at each other, difficult to sever. I occasionally heard about their recent situation from mutual friends, and each time it was a new farce, from fierce arguments to online exposures. Even when faced with a citywide scandal, Leo Carter still insisted on not letting go. His persistence was consistent with his shamelessness. Are you sure you want to do this? Are you two going to end so many years of a relationship just like that? A friend asked me privately after a gathering, her words full of helplessness about the complex emotions between Sarah Wilson, Leo Carter, and me. I shook my head, my mind clear. She made her choice. I'm just cutting my losses. I'm not the one who should be regretting it. However, Sarah Wilson truly regretted it. She started calling and texting me frequently, each message filled with pleading and longing, asking me to see her one more time. At first, I chose silence, wanting to respond to her entanglement with indifference, but her persistence eventually irritated me. To meet once and settle everything, I agreed to meet at our favorite dessert shop. That day, I arrived early at the agreed-upon location, chose a window seat, and waited quietly. Soon, Sarah Wilson pushed open the door. Her figure appeared particularly thin in the afternoon sunlight, her eyes with a hint of haggardness and determination. You're here. Just say what you need to say. I don't want to be disturbed anymore. I greeted her lightly, trying to remain calm. She sat down slowly, her eyes wandering over me, as if searching for traces of the past. Do you think I'm disturbing you now? Can we talk? Her voice trembled slightly. I sighed. What do you want to talk about? Sarah Wilson began to narrate, from our meeting to falling in love, to those sweet times, painting every detail vividly, as if trying to take me back to those carefree days. However, my heart was as frozen as ice, no longer moved by those memories. Enough! I finally couldn't help but interrupt her. From the moment you decided to be with Leo Carter, there was no longer any affection between us. What are you trying to find by saying all this now? Or are you just trying to ease your guilt? Sarah Wilson's eyes dimmed instantly. She lowered her head, her hands clenched tightly together, as if making a difficult decision. Sue. Denly, disregarding the strange looks from those around her, she knelt in front of me, tears streaming down her face. Please, forgive me, okay? I know I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I was blinded by a fleeting thrill. I only love you. Leo Carter was just a mistake. I've already broken up with him. You're always the one I love the most. I want to start over with you, to be together properly. Her voice was full of despair and pleading. The person I once loved deeply was now kneeling in front of me in this way, begging for forgiveness. But my heart had already died on that night of betrayal, unable to beat for her again. Sarah Wilson, get up. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my tone calm. It's over between us, whether you admit it or not. I hope you can understand that true forgiveness can't be exchanged for a simple I'm sorry. You know yourself, you don't love Leo Carter, and you don't love me. You only love yourself. You can't control your heart, and you're unwilling to take responsibility. You need to take responsibility for your actions, and I need to move on. I continued, in the future, please don't contact me again, and don't come and disturb my life. We should all be responsible for our own lives, shouldn't we? Sarah Wilson raised her head, her eyes filled with complex emotions, but in the end, she just nodded silently. She slowly stood up and left the memory-filled dessert shop in a somewhat deranged manner. As for me, I sat there, watching her receding figure, feeling only the ease of liberation in my heart. I thought that the matter had completely disappeared from my life after the breakup at the dessert shop, like dust swept away by the wind. A few days later, while browsing the news, I unintentionally saw a report about Sarah Wilson and Leo Carter. My heart tightened suddenly, as if something was gripping it tightly, making it difficult to breathe. I felt some surprise and a little regret. According to the report, Sarah Wilson was in a heavy mood and walking unsteadily after leaving the dessert shop that day. She might have thought she could get rid of all the entanglements and start over, but she hadn't expected that I wouldn't forgive her, and Leo Carter wouldn't let her go either. After Sarah Wilson repeatedly tried to break up with him, Leo Carter completely lost his composure. He frantically called Sarah Wilson's phone, but couldn't get through. Anger and jealousy spread like wildfire, consuming his reason. He started stalking Sarah Wilson, wanting to know where she had gone and who she had met. In this way, Leo Carter followed Sarah Wilson to our favorite dessert shop. He hid in the shadows and witnessed Sarah Wilson kneeling in front of me, begging me to forgive her. He might have finally realized that he had never occupied an important place in Sarah Wilson's heart. Despair and anger intertwined, almost suffocating him. Leo Carter left the dessert shop and walked into a bar with a heavy heart. He poured himself one drink after another, trying to numb his nerves with alcohol. However, alcohol could only temporarily mask his pain, but couldn't solve the problem. In a drunken haze, Leo Carter drove and followed Sarah Wilson all the way. His eyes were blurred, his consciousness was dazed, as if the whole world was spinning. At that moment, he lost all reason and judgment, driving his vehicle straight into Sarah Wilson. A loud noise broke the silence of the night. Sarah Wilson fell into a pool of blood, her leg mangled beyond recognition by the vehicle. Passers-by quickly called the police and an ambulance. Sarah Wilson was rushed to the hospital. After several hours of emergency surgery, although her life was saved, her left leg had to be amputated. After the collision, Leo Carter woke up and realized that he had committed an unforgivable mistake. He tried to flee the scene, but was eventually arrested by the police. I knew that he would face the severe punishment of the law. The news was explosive and sensational, staying on the trending searches for several days. This is perhaps what happens when love turns sour. The damage it brings may be irreparable. However, I no longer had many emotional fluctuations about all of this. I finished reading the news calmly, with only a trace of emotion in my heart. I realized that I had completely walked out of that entanglement and started a new life. In order to better let go of the past, I began to cultivate several capable employees in the workplace/office, letting them help me manage the business. As for me, I took a long vacation and embarked on a trip abroad. In a foreign land with jet lag, I completely relaxed. I strolled through the streets and alleys of foreign countries, feeling the different cultures and scenery. I tasted the local cuisine, admired the foreign architecture, and exchanged stories with people from all over the world. This trip allowed me to regain my inner peace and freedom. When I returned home again, I was radiant, as if I had been reborn. I started a new life, full of hope and expectation. I knew that no matter what challenges and difficulties I might encounter in the future, I would face them bravely, because I knew that I already had enough strength and wisdom to deal with everything.